Hey y'all, Moses here. In today's training room video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 ways you can increase your effectiveness and win more games on PUBG's newest map, Sanhok. Sanhok is a much smaller map than Erangel and Miramar and brings about a much different style of play. Adapting to this new style is the difference between winning and losing. So without further ado, let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about is the fact that I don't know how to say Sanhok. I don't know if it's Sanhok, Sanhok, whatever. I'll be saying it in a multitude of ways through this video. Let's just get over it and move on. So the first thing I want to talk about is drop patterns or drop strategy. In Sanhok, you have a lot of different choices. You can drop super hot at the training center. You can drop to the edges of the map around the little shacks or whatever, or you could choose one of the many different urban locations. I prefer, and I think it's more effective, to drop near larger population centers. I like to drop a little bit south or a little bit east of the training center, and then once I'm looted up and have looted all the little trash compounds around the area, I head to the training center itself and try and clean up the players that have been fighting there through the early game. Now, this could be within the first 2 or 3 minutes or within the first 10 minutes, but really what you want to do is try and get looted away from large population centers because there's just so much going on. That's not to say that hot dropping into highly populated areas is inefficient or not fun. I do it all the time, but really if you're looking to win more games, you want to reduce your risk. One of the things I really love about Sanhok is that you can kind of choose your pace. You can run around and gun all you like, or you can kind of play it slow and stealthy in the jungle. Really, it's up to you, but for me, it's about getting looted and then finishing off the early game with a few kills and maybe a little bit more extra loot depending on who you're looting. So maybe you're wondering what are the best places to drop on Sanhok. Well, I guess that's up to you really because the map is so small, but one of my favorite places are just the exterior camps like Camp Alpha, Bravo, Charlie. Those are always good times. They kind of bring the training center vibe without the massive desync and issues that the training center brings, but really the training center from time to time can be good as well. Another one that's kind of a sleeper pick would be the docks. You have the ability to quickly loot the boat and the warehouses, then you can kind of pick wherever you like to go, but you'll likely need a vehicle, and staying on foot from the dock spawn is a little bit slow of a pace for my liking. The next thing I want to talk about is mid-game pacing. What I like to do when the circle reveals itself is try and get myself into a position where I can get to the circle relatively early. The first few circles will be a little bit wanting as far as finding fights are concerned because everyone's still trying to find their way into the first play zone. Once the first zone changes, I like to patrol the circle edge to clean up late arriving players. This behavior continues, at least for me, through the mid-game and all the way into the end game because playing the edge of the circle in Sanhok is just a little bit more efficient as far as finding fights. Now, the issue with this style of play is sometimes you'll get that hard shift circle towards the end of the mid game, and that'll force you to have to run long distances when the circle begins to move much faster and when it does more damage. So once that timer between circles starts to shorten, you have to maybe play a little bit more aggressive. So playing the circle edge is a little bit passive in the early game, but it gets more and more aggressive as the game progresses because ultimately you're just going to find more fights along the circle's edge. This will allow you to find paths into the late game that are a little bit more secure. Once you've dealt with all the enemies on the circle's edge, you can decide how you want to approach the next or later play zone. You can run straight into the play zone and wait for enemies to trail you and pick up some easy kills, or you can push the gap, which means running along the blue closer to the new play zone, but just using that blue as a security blanket essentially, and clear out enemies you find along the way. Pushing the gap is a standard tactic in the end game, and you can use it on any map, but on Sanhok it's even more effective because of the small distances between new and old play zones. So enough about circle tactics and drop strategy. I think that overall Sanhok is a very flexible map to play and you can really choose whatever you like. Hopefully some of the previous tips make a little bit of sense to you. So now moving on to the more pointed tips, I would like to talk about the weapon selection on Sanhok. So the one thing that I like to do is prioritize DMRs over bolt action rifles. DMRs on the smaller map give a lot more flexibility due to the fact that they can apply pressure at any range. You don't have to worry about hitting those shots up close. And realistically, DMRs are they just fit the map better. So I think that even if you're a bolt action preferred sniper, to try out things like it'll be the QBU by the time this video comes out. The new QBU will be on the map. You can use the SKS and the SLR. I really think that you can use them to a higher degree of effectiveness than you can with bolt action rifles. Obviously, if you're a super sniper, stick with that bolt action, whatever you're comfortable with. but the movement and speed of the map really lends credence to the fact that DMRs are just a much better choice. And on the utility side, grenade usage on Sanhok is just super important. So using your smoke grenades, your flashbangs, and your regular grenades, obviously, as well, is something that you want to focus on greatly. Carry extra smokes and flashbangs. There's nothing better than being able to throw a bunch of flashbangs and smokes to cover your approach on an enemy that won't move out of a house or a hut. Or if you're dealing with forest fighting where you need to cover your angles because you're getting too much pressure from multiple areas. On Sanhok specifically, you're going to find that you're going to get into 2- or 3-way fights a lot more often than you would on Erangel and Miramar because everyone's so crammed in. Being able to throw a smoke and evade is a smart thing to do when you just can't take that pressure and need to reposition. So keeping smoke grenades on hand all the time on the small map is a huge necessity, and I do it all the time. Have a quick bind for your smoke grenade as well. I've switched my mouse 4 up to have that be the smoke grenade button so I can easily deploy a utility and get out of areas. You can use it to cover loot boxes. You can use it to cover crates. Whatever you need to do, use your smoke grenades. Flashing over hills and into buildings is really important if you're in the end game or really any stage where you think there's an enemy nearby and you can't be sure. Flashbangs are super important nowadays, and you're really leaving yourself a huge disadvantage if you don't use them. And obviously grenades as well. You can, I would like to think that you can prioritize grenades over ammunition in most cases. I think that's a big component of pro play and something that will translate well into regular play as well. You don't need to be carrying 300 rounds of ammunition when you're always coming across more. There is no shortage of loot on the small map. And really, if you have more meds and grenades, you're going to be in a better position. And really, if you're winning fights, you can pick up ammo off dead bodies anyway. The last thing I want to talk about is a bit of a multi-tip. Sanhok is a very unique experience. Don't worry about high kill count games when you're trying to figure out the new map. One thing that really helped me was just learning the pace. And you'll figure the pace out for yourself, and a lot of you probably have as well at this stage. But I think that the combination of circle usage, utility usage, weapon choice, and just general mentality that there's not going to be a lot of downside to getting to early fights and even late fights in Sanhok. The map is designed to make you better at gunfighting. The more time you spend on the small map, I think the more preference you're going to build for it over Erangel and Miramar, just due to the fact that you're always going to be doing something interesting. And really the games go a little bit faster as well, so you can get more rounds in for your time. So the last thing I want to leave you with is try and have fun. Sanhok is a really great experience, much different than what we're used to. Get out there, try out different things, use it to hone your skills for other part of the Battle Royale game. Play it in duos, play it in squads, and see what you like best. Thank you guys for taking the time to watch this training room video. I really encourage you to visit the training room website where we have a lot of different content. There's more in the links down in the description. Leave a comment with your thoughts. Leave a like if you liked the video. Subscribe to this channel for more content like this in the future. And don't forget to follow me on Twitch and Twitter at wtfmoses. Thank you guys again. And until next time, I'll see you out there.